Johnny Depp, the audience may not be aware, but he sued you. He sued you for reporting you did on the Amber Heard allegations against him. And the audience may remember before he brought his defamation case against her here domestically, he started in the UK, and Dan was on the receiving end of that. And there, Johnny Depp did not prevail. And then he came over here and he did prevail. And usually it goes the other way, because in the UK, it's easier to prove defamation than it is here in the United States, especially when there's a public figure involved. But you were in kind of an interesting spot there because, I don't know, maybe some people normally would have expected you to kind of take his side, but you were much more like Amber Heard is brave and, I stand by my reporting that he was an alleged abuser. And now you say you want to issue an apology to him. Why?
Yeah, so it was interesting. The court case in the UK, even though Amber was giving evidence, it was actually me who was being sued. So she was giving evidence to support our case because she knew if she won here, that would help her case in the US, although that didn't end up happening. Now, I want to be really clear that what I'm about to say is not designed in any way to pile more heartache or difficulties onto Amber Heard. Remember, she didn't want to be in court either, Megan. It was Johnny who decided to take the case against me in the UK and her in the US.
I'm going to stop him right there. It sounds like he's still ass-kissing Amber Heard because he doesn't want to say anything against her. No, if Amber Heard would have shut her mouth and did what her non-disclosure agreement and her divorce settlement said and stopped writing articles insinuating or naming her ex, he wouldn't have had to defend his rights and that contract that they had with each other. Not just once, but two of them. Okay, so it wasn't him that chose to do that. He was driven to have to make that choice by other people's actions, including yours, Dan Wooton.
Yes, but what I do want to do is apologize to Johnny for ever getting involved in the ins and outs of his personal and clearly very toxic relationship. I have now seen, Megan, and we've spoken about it during the first hour, just what can happen when an ex has such an axe to grind, is so actuated by malice that they will make up terrible things designed to destroy your career and destroy your life. Now, by the way, I'm not saying that that's what Amber did, but we don't.
Yes, that is exactly what she did. That's exactly what happened. Not only that, she was the abuser and perpetrator of that. And then she went on to not only pretend like she wasn't the abuser and the perpetrator, she also tried to make him look like the abuser and perpetrator, and then further made herself a victim. So, yep, that's exactly. And that's really fucked up that it takes a man to have to go through and experience that same exact thing. You know what that is? That's what we call God's karma. Because he delivers the ultimate karma to people where men and legal systems around the globe fail.
No, do we? And it was
that's what the jury said. That's what the jury in the
Of course,
the
but the judge in the UK made a different decision. So I think you could say it was a split decision. But it wasn't my role to get involved.
No.
If Amber believed there had been...
They made that decision because they were not going to go against Newsweek publishers, period. No justice over there in the UK was going to make a judgment against Newsweek publishers. They were going to allow you guys to say whatever bullshit you want, even if it's false and untrue.
Abuse in that relationship.
That's not a split
There was
decision.
a criminal process she could have gone through, and there was a legal process that she could have gone through. I think the problem is I got involved in the carnival of commentary. And actually, it was in a really unwitting way, Megan, because my column wasn't even about Johnny Depp. It was actually about J.K. Rowling. I absolutely love J.K. Rowling now. She's one of my heroes because she stands up for biological sex and she's taken on the woke mob. But at the time, do you remember she was leading the charge in the Me Too movement and saying that all women should be believed? All women should be believed, no matter what. That was J.K. Rowling's
I don't remember her being
position.
one of those.
She was. But then she didn't sign up to that when it came to Johnny Depp. So I was calling out, actually, my column was about calling out the hypocrisy of J.K. Rowling. Then, unfortunately, and this does happen on newspaper websites, a headline was put on the column that described Johnny Depp as a wife beater. That was never written by me. It didn't appear in the print newspaper, but you can imagine all hell broke loose.
It doesn't matter, especially if you published. It doesn't matter if you wrote it. You published it with your name. So therefore, you are taking credit for that.
As a result of that. But I think one of the big issues that we have now, Megan, in the culture war is that so often we dig deep into our trenches. We don't take a moment to look back at what we've done and think, actually, was that a mistake? And I guess I've had the time.
No, you just thought that you could be a fucking prick and say whatever bullshit that you wanted to and stand by your convictions and stand by your opinions and your thoughts. But it's a totally different experience when it happens to you. Right, Dan? So now you're going to say you're sorry all these years later? Really? Just because you're experiencing a similar situation? Right. Well, all that sentiment that you give to Amber Heard, give it to your ex. Let's see how you feel then.
To do that over the past 6 months. And I've thought a lot about it. And I do think I was wrong to ever get involved. I don't think it was my business. And I think all I did was add extra heartache to what was clearly a very troubled,
No, you're the one who started the global phenomenon of somebody having to make the choice to legally defend themselves and defend their rights, as he has the ability to do so. Nobody's saying that Johnny Depp wasn't toxic himself, but was he a physical abuser? No. Should he have been in a marriage or a relationship having relapsed on drugs and alcohol? Probably not, because he wasn't in the right state of mind or in the right place in his life to even be in a relationship or a marriage. Did he get angry and throw stuff or physically destroy property of his own? Maybe, because that's usually what happens when people have a drug and alcohol addiction. They can get violent with things, but there's a totally different way of having a toxic relationship while you're also having somebody beat you and then being physically violent and beating your wife. So being called a wife beater, I would say that's not a play on words. That's somebody literally saying that he physically abused his wife, when all of the evidence points to she actually physically abused him. Toxic relationship, yes, but she was the abuser. And that's just the way it is. Fuck Amber Heard. That's the bottom line, and that's the truth. And she ain't gonna sit here and lie to the entire world and think that everybody out here is an idiot. I'm sorry, but society and civilians out here, a lot of us have high IQs, superior IQs. We're not fucking idiots out here. In fact, some of the smartest, most intelligent, most creative, most beautiful, most humbling people are people that are not public figures. So the fact that public figures think that they can just come out here and say whatever bullshit and that we're supposed to believe it, you don't think your ass is going to get checked?
toxic relationship. Do I think Johnny Depp is a perfect guy? Absolutely not.
Are you a perfect guy, Dan Wooton? Are you a perfect guy? I would say very fucking far from it. And I've met Johnny Depp. I met him in 2016, July of 2016. I have a sweat towel, 2 autographs, the Hollywood Vampire t-shirt he gave me, a Hollywood Vampire drumstick that Matt Sorum gave me. I also have a set list that Alice Cooper personally handed me. I have a picture of me and Johnny Depp. I have a picture of me and Johnny Depp shaking hands. And this is right as these allegations were coming out. He is not an abuser.
I don't think even he would argue that.
No, but I have lots of regrets over that. And I don't think enough journalists talk about their regrets sometimes. So, yeah, I was definitely...
Only because you are now being forced to say that, to try to save your own chapped ass, because you know that you are so far deep in your own shit of your own making that you're having to apologize now. Us journalists don't apologize enough. Well, maybe you should have thought about that shit before your fully grown adult ass decided to take the stance that you did and then publicly put that stance out there in the world to sway other people's opinions and emotions. Turns out you were wrong because you weren't there to see their marriage. You don't know what happened behind closed doors. And the only glimpses we got are the recordings.
Wrong. It's something I wish that I hadn't done, even though I would defend myself and saying it was very unwitting. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't expecting to become the guy to go against Johnny Depp at all. But I think now I know that you cannot just trust the word of an ex. You can't, because
I'm so glad that God decided to put your ass in the same situation.
some exes, because I now know from personal experience, my ex was prepared to do anything to destroy me, Megan, anything. Going to the police, making up stories, posting on X. He was prepared to do anything. So I just feel like when relationships like this go wrong, it should be down to law enforcement to make the decision, not social media and not the media itself. So I was definitely wrong on that.
Well, Dan, I appreciate.
But he stops just shy of saying he was wrong for publishing the article and calling him a wife beater. Which means that entire UK case against Johnny Depp should have been thrown out. Right? But he doesn't actually say to him that he's sorry. He's sorry that he got involved. It's not the same as saying, I am sorry to you for what I did. And for calling you a wife beater and publishing it. Not the same thing. Not the same thing. I don't think he fully, even being in a situation somewhat similar and having his ex have allegations against him, he's still not getting it.
You saying that, I feel the same. I'm constantly looking back at my own positions and asking, how could I do better? What do I know now that would change my opinions? And I really encourage everybody to do that, because if you just stick with, I'm right today and I've always been right, then if you were wrong yesterday and you're wrong today, you never have any chance of being right tomorrow. You know, that's just the way it is. So self-reflection, introspection, and a lot of humility will go a long way for every human.
That doesn't make a difference when you are a journalist or a public figure that is on TV every single day and you are maliciously spreading misinformation and false allegations against somebody else. You're literally ruining an entire person's life, career, and even their family life. That's not something you should say, oh, my opinions, and I should reflect on it. And, no, you shouldn't fucking open your mouth at all, about certain things. And personal relationships between two people, which you are not one, is included.